paper, scissors, shoot.
Controlled football. Francois to throw for the first time. Downfield, got Jamil. And Andrew Jamil towards the pylon. Touchdown.
Got him.
Glacier boys strike first.
Got that DD already. And they already start. I love the balance because
All right, I'm super excited about this one tonight. Joining me is co-founder and chief gaming officer of the Fan-Controlled Football League, Mr. Patrick Dees. How are you doing tonight, Patrick?
Yes, sir. Sam, what is up, man? Long time in coming. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a minute, so thrilled to finally be here. I'm excited to get into it.
Definitely. It's been a long time coming, but you're a really busy guy. You run a football league, so we definitely will be talking about that, and I'm super excited to hear all about it.
Yeah, and a basketball league, so we're not slowing down by any stretch. So excited to a lot of cool stuff coming.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to talk about it all. So I kind of always like to start with people's backgrounds and kind of work to where they're at. So I'm going to do the same with you as well. So I noticed that you were kind of not really involved with the football world to start off with. You were a GM of Flipswap and the CEO of Emerge Group. You stayed with Flipswap for what, 4 years it was?
About 5 years, and then we had to exit. So we sold Flipswap, and kind of that's the birthplace of this. I actually came up, most of the stuff that's not like on LinkedIn, I was actually in like wireless retail distribution for years. I owned cell phone stores. So I had Verizon stores and then later Sprint stores. All in, I had 200 of them. And I met these guys that had built this algorithm that would determine what a phone's value was worth in secondary markets all over the world. And it was awesome. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I started using it in my stores. It was this trade-in engine, and that became Flipswap. That's where I met my business partner and our CEO here, Saurav Farudi. We became fast friends, started hanging out on the weekends. Very quickly, my partner on the Sprint stores took me out on a note, and I started working with him at Flipswap, and we grew that until we sold it. And that's kind of where we started coming up with this notion of fan-controlled sports and entertainment.
Really? So it was way back then?
Yeah, it was. Yes, a long time ago. 2011 was when 2010 was when we first started talking about it. So, look, the exit was kind of an interesting one in the sense that there was a guy that was going to put together some money from, I think, Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia and come back and buy us. And so, he told us a couple of years out, I'm coming to buy you guys in a couple of years. And so, like, he kept saying it, and then 18 months, he's like, I'm coming to buy you guys. And then, in a year, he's like, I'm coming to buy you guys. So we knew more or less kind of when the exit would probably be here. He's the kind of guy that could put together the kind of capital to buy the business. So it's that whole axiom, right, about do what you love. And Saurav is the world's biggest Cowboys fan. He kept telling me he's going to buy the Cowboys, which I love, but we were in our 20s, and there's like, honestly, Jerry Jones is going to outlive all of us. So, no chance. He's probably some sort of weird vampire somewhere. And then also the exit wasn't going to be big enough to buy the goddamn Cowboys. Can I swear, by the way? Is that all right on the show?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, great. And then I'm a big video game guy. I'm chief gaming officer, which is kind of this crazy title you give yourself when you found a business. But it's also, it is what I do. I've kind of built the gaming mechanics here. But at core, I'm the big gamer of the group. I still game almost every night. Typically, I'm a narrative-focused gamer these days. But I grew up and actually learned the rules of playing football by playing like Tecmo Bowl and Madden, right? That's how I learned how football worked. My old man isn't a great father, like one of the best fathers in the Northern Hemisphere. But when he went to high school, Sam, he was like a drama kid, right? He was a vocal ensemble nerd. He didn't play football and didn't really know the rule. Like knew there was 4 downs and shit, but like didn't actually know how it worked. And so, when I was growing up, I would play Madden, and then on the weekends, I'd drag him in to watch the NFL with me a little bit, and I'd be like, Dad, this is a 4-3 defense, and he would pretend to care. You know what I mean? It was just like, oh, I don't care. He just wanted to spend time with his kid. So for me, that experience of real-time play calling has always been coupled with my sports experience. And so this is kind of the genesis of how we started coming at this thing is like, how do we infuse sports with, additional technology? And we went through a lot of iterations before we got to where we are, but that was where it first started. So, shortly after that, we bought a team, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Arena League, RIP, but we bought a team in the Arena League with Vince Neil from Motley Crue, which was a wild experience. And over beer sometime, I will tell you some stories about just what a dumpster fire of a dude that guy is. But what we learned primarily out of that was that the model is just so fundamentally broken. It's so broken And so it, as small business owners and operators and startup guys, we really, that's with the lens with which we looked at this, was like, it's outside of not doing anything new, there's this model that's just so broken. And so that's where we started thinking about this league in a box, right? Like everybody playing one place. And there's, you mitigate the need for multiple, for traveling, multiple ticketing teams, multiple trainers. Again, the way we can run a really kick-ass a league in one location, but have like really triple down and invest in one of the most amazing arenas ever. So anyway, went on from there. Then I met Grant Cohen and Ray Austin, my other two co-founders here, the commission, our chief growth officer, and we bought a team in the IFL. And that was when we were determined to just turn this team over entirely to fans. So fans, that was the first team, and the fans called plays.
Set to the right for Goldrich, throws on the crossing.
We ended up being called the Screaming Eagles. Here's the logo from the Screaming Eagles. Fans named the team. We were almost named the Stormin' Mormons, which would have been amazing because we played in Salt Lake City. It would have been incredible. We were almost named the Spaghetti Monsters and the Teamy McTeam Faces. So we ended up being called the Screaming Eagles. And then fans chose this is a fan designed logo. They chose our team colors, our uniforms. They chose our coach. We live streamed the interviews, and then fans called plays. And that was in 2016, 2017. And it was wildly successful. 100 different countries were calling plays for this team on Twitch. It was Twitch Plays Football. But something was still missing. It was a round peg square hole. We had this really cool idea about fans driving a team, but it's like a 10-team league where 9 of them are traditional teams and 1 of them is fan run. It was clearly a better model. And so, I think it gave us the courage to kind of take the team out of that league and come back and say, like, what if you invented football now? What if we reinvented it for the digital age? What would it look like? And I would assert it would look a lot like fan control football, right? Games are an hour, a little plus running clock. There's no kicking because nobody's ever said, "Fuck yeah, kicker is here." We do obviously the one-on-one drill for extra points. Fans are calling every play, drafting every person, really affecting what's going on in the field. They're competing against each other, leveling up and going up a leaderboard. And so it gave us a chance to say, look, again, if you invented football today, right now, what would it be? And I think it's a lot like what you saw in season 2, actually. I think that's the real fulfillment of where we want to take the direction of the league.
Absolutely. I mean, I told you off camera just a couple of moments ago, I feel like season 2 is a raging success as far as I'm concerned. To give you a little bit of insight, I didn't really watch the FCF in season 1. I mean, yeah. I thought it was cool. I was like, oh man, they're getting some big names. This could be interesting. I'll keep an eye on that. And then I never got around to watching a game in season 1. And then I talked to Trey Dante Hill earlier on in the season, right before the season started. And he was like, man, you're going to love this game. You're going to love this league, the way it plays, You want to check it out. You're going to love it. Sure enough, I watched one game, and then pretty soon I was watching every game every weekend.
Amazing.
So it's been fun. It's been super fun. I mean, you guys have a business model and an approach to football that I've never seen anything like before, and I think that it's going to be a hit eventually. I mean, people are going to see this, and the fantasy football crowd's going to get involved, and then the gaming crowd, and there's so many different routes you can go with this.
We think so too. Thanks. I'm so glad you caught season 2 again. I think that was the evolution of it again, and we're building it in real time. I mean, we've been pretty transparent. It's like early access software. That's what we call it. Season version 1.0 and 2.0. We're all former startup guys and software guys. It's the idea of like we're building and iterating on this in real time. And just despite 25 million people tuning in this season, I still think, to your point, we're a bit under the radar, right? A lot of folks have still not seen what we're doing or gotten involved just yet. So, those who do are incredibly engaged and really involved. And so we're really excited for season 3 and hoops and beyond to be able to, obviously get that message out to more people.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. I mean, after season 1, I mean, it was a success. You had some big name players. You had a lot of viewers. And eventually you guys get nominated for an Emmy.
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's so many different things that have popped up along the 2 years that you guys have been in existence that are just unreal. You don't see this stuff happen with other startup leagues like this. A lot of them come and go and we never even hear about them. And then FCF has been making waves since the moment you guys started. So,
Thanks, man. That
that
mean, means a lot. I was
absolutely.
devastated about the Emmy. I've been introducing myself as one-time Emmy loser, Patrick Dees. We'll get back there. It was a very surreal moment to be in the room, and it was like the NFL, MLB, NBC, and FCF. You know what I mean? It was just like one of these things is not like the other kids. But it was a blast to be nominated. I really can't wait to get back.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's only a matter of time.
Thanks.
So we have a little connection that I wasn't even aware of until I started looking into your background.
Okay.
I actually went and saw a game. It's a small connection of the
I love it.
Colorado Crush, the last season they were in the IFL. And it turns
Yeah,
out you were a part of the ownership group.
you're damn right I was. So we bought the Crush. Oh, that's amazing. Hold on, I got a Crush hat right here. Colorado Crush, man. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
wow. That's
I
awesome.
yeah, so the Crush, so we bought two teams in the IFL. We bought the Screaming Eagles, and then we bought the Crush as a way to show. So obviously we started the Screaming Eagles from the jump being fan controlled. We bought the Crush, and the idea was we were going to use that blueprint to show other teams in the league how to transition from traditional to fan controlled. And we did that. But throughout the course of the season, we actually started having them call plays and everything. But ultimately, like I said, the league was just a non-starter. But yeah, that was my baby. I spent a lot of time out in Colorado getting that guy off the ground. So amazing! What a cool venue. That venue
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
I can't remember. Do you remember what it was called? I'm spacing a.
The Budweiser Event Center, I believe.
Yes, amazing. Like so intimate. And in fact, Budweiser Event Center was a bit of an inspiration for what we ended up doing in Pullman Yards in Atlanta. The way they had
Really?
that bar on that one end zone, which I absolutely loved, and the way, not from an aesthetic perspective, obviously we want to kind of this distressed, kind of urban, industrial graffiti feel, but that the way that people are right on top of the action in the Budweiser Event Center, I loved, and so that's amazing. I'm glad you went and saw the Crush. It's so cool.
Absolutely. I took my son, a couple of my brother's stepkids, my wife, and we were all there. It was super cool to see. I mean, lots of energy. They got to go meet some of the players after the game and stuff like that. So it was a really cool experience. They still talk about it to this day. So,
Oh, how
I mean,
cool!
5 years later.
That's
I
amazing.
actually had my kids sit down and watch a fan-controlled football game, and this is one of the things I wanted to tell you. My 10-year-old does not like the NFL. I mean,
Sure.
he'll wear shirts, he'll do that whole thing. He'll support the Eagles because I do. But he literally sat there riveted to my laptop the day I showed him an FCF game, and he
Amazing.
was just like, "This is so cool. This is so cool. I can pick plays. I can do this. I can vote for all this." And I'm like, dude, you can do anything. This league is totally different than anything we know of. And he got really into it right away. And it's been kind of a cool little bonding thing because I've always wanted to be a huge football fan. And this is kind of the way it's happening. So
That's
little
so
thank
awesome,
you from
man.
me
That
to
makes
you.
me happy, right? I mean, like I think about that a lot about like both generations that have not been into football, or vice versa. The way I had it with my old man, and the ability for us to have something that we can kind of do together. It's something that we've always wanted to. We've thought a lot about how that brings people the generations together. Like maybe you're not interested in calling plays, but the product on the field is just kick ass smash mouth football, but your kid may be very interested in moving up the ladder board and competing against the leaderboard, competing against other fans. And so it's purpose built to do that. But I've dedicated 7 years of my life to building this thing, and hearing somebody actually say it and have that experience with a son just does me some good. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a big deal to me too. So I appreciate that. I mean, from a parent's perspective. Um, But moving on back to the league, of course,
Sure.
took you guys a few years to get from where you left the IFL to get the FCF started. What went into starting the league, and what were the biggest challenges you guys faced along the way?
Oh man, a lot went into it was a beat. There was a lot going on in between, right? Because again, once we'd identified that we weren't coming back, it was starting from scratch, and that doesn't sound like daunting in the sense that it's still football indoors, but again, we don't want to feel like arena ball, right? Like we don't have the walls. We do have walls, but we actually have where you can run out, right? It's those little details. So we needed to build a product from a football perspective that was fun to watch. Again, like that's not real penalty heavy, and like how far off the ball can people line up, and what's the so there's a lot of tinkering with what the product of the field is, and then it was finding the right partners. So that took a little bit longer, I think, than we wanted. I think we ultimately got there, but it was finding, distribution partner obviously Twitch was a major piece of that. So it took a while to get our agreement done with Twitch. And then also, finding guys that believed in what we were going to build. And it was such a stretch because it lived on a PowerPoint presentation, right? They'd never seen it. So now when we go talk to people, I'm like, hey, that thing we did in season 2, we're going to do 3, but we're going to pour gasoline on it. Let's go. Everybody gets it. But it was in a PowerPoint presentation, right? And we've never done sports. I mean, Ray was obviously, you played in the league for years and, has done a lot of successful projects. But, for the most part, we're all, the 3 of us are all serial startup guys. So like, we've got a great team and we're surrounded with people who are from the sports world, Andy Dolich, those types of things. Sorry about that. But it was still this idea of like, what is this thing? And I think, and we would know, right? You would talk to somebody and within 5 minutes, they either that light came on or they would keep talking and try and get their head around it, but it just never actually clicked for folks. So it's finding guys like Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, Quavo, Renee Montgomery, Miro, these kind of folks that like are all in, right? That were like very passionate about what we were building and got it and believed in us and whatnot. So it was a lot of time to get those ducks in a row. And then candidly, we had a couple false starts, both with raising capital to get it off the ground. And then also, the onset of COVID. Obviously we played during peak COVID, but that set the schedule back quite a while, right? Again, because we making sure we had the right protocols in place. And, from a cost perspective, it went through the roof. You wouldn't think that it would, but now we're housing all of these guys and we're testing and we've got to build bubbles for both players and then the production staff and finding refs that are willing to live in a bubble for that entire season. So, a lot went into that. But I think, playing during COVID ended up being a net positive because, a lot of people were indoors, looking for some content and here's live sports in the middle of COVID. So it ended up working out, but long time in coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you kind of talked about it. A lot of you guys are serial startup guys. Would you recommend the IFL for somebody who is trying to get into the sports world as far as owning a franchise?
No. And it's not, no, I'm not throwing shade at the IFL. I love the product on the field. And I really, I think, it's great quality football. We know a lot of the owners in that league. They're good people. Just fundamentally, none of those teams are actually making any money, right? A lot of those teams are owned by people who live in smaller towns who just want there to be football in the offseason for people there. And they love the prestige of owning a team. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are looking to build a business, that is not for you. It just isn't. If you are looking to, I guess that's the caveat. Depends on what you're looking for out of this acquisition or this, this venture. If you're looking to own a team, be part of something sports related, have some pretty, owning a league and owning a team is a wild experience. And so it affords you some cool experiences, but it is not, I wouldn't be a stepping stone to go build other businesses or generate wealth in any capacity. In fact, most of them are upside down and lose a significant amount of money. That's not to say that they haven't made some changes at a league level. And again, it's been a couple of years since I've been involved, but again, no shade in the IFL or the AAF or, the USFL or any of these leagues. USFL did it right last year, but they're again kind of changing their model a little bit. They're just the NFL light. They're not doing anything different. And I think it will constantly be an uphill battle to try and, unless you've got billions and billions of dollars, you can't outspend the NFL. You just never will. And so like, even the idea of like, I know I get concerned about, I know this isn't what you asked, but I get concerned about like even the XFL. I'm rooting for those guys to be successful because A, a lot of good people are involved with that, but B, I do think this rising tide lifts all boats. So I want them to be successful. But, you look at salaries that they're paying people from a, obviously we want to pay people a living wage, but like those salaries and you're paying guys $100, whatever. I don't want to get into salaries. They've got to be in line with what the business can support. Right. And so I just don't know that any of those leagues are set up for success, and again, no shade, amazing people there, rooting for them to be successful. And I love the IFL fans, man. They are awesome, passionate, dude. Like after every game, we would have our guys stay on the field and just sign jerseys and hang out. We 20 minutes. We asked that they just kind of hang out and meet the fans, and that's something that I really loved about that league. It's a fun experience, but again, especially depending on age and what they want out of the business, I think you'd have to take a really hard look at, is this something that I'm going to make money off of and that can be used as a stepping stone to other things.
Absolutely. I perfect answer. I couldn't have asked for a better answer, honestly. I'm an IFL fan, but it would be hard to say that there aren't business issues amongst a lot of teams in the league, and it's very apparent when you watch different games.
I mean, you think about, we don't want to spend all this time talking about business, but like you think about your opportunities to monetize are few and far between as a team. You're spending outrageous amounts of money getting your team to travel places back and forth, right? And you've got a couple games a year where you actually get to monetize from a ticketing perspective and a sponsorship perspective. Like, it's just and then you've got your own dedicated staff. We were talking about this earlier, of ticketing folks and sponsorship folks and trainers, and all of these costs are redundant across the league. It is a lot of overhead. Anyway, don't need to beat a dead horse, but I see it being the right fit for folks that really just want to be involved in a fun sports experience, traditional sports experience, but not a business I'd want to be in. How's that?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I mean, I don't think you're saying anything out of line. I think you make a perfect point. I mean, all these different leagues, they're basically NFL like, just done a little bit slightly different. Whereas your league is not. It is totally different.
And we we get shade sometimes on Twitter when we joke with the other leagues, but we don't even think about the other leagues. We're not at all, you know what I mean? I don't think we're competing with them. We're doing very different things. And so every once in a while, when we engage with them on Twitter, we get a lot of shade about us hating the alt leagues, and we are rooting for them to be successful and all that, but they're just not a factor in how we're making any decisions, if that makes any sense.
That actually, that might have answered another one of my questions later on. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to me about the group of men and women you have working in your talent acquisition departments. I mean, you've gotten guys like Johnny Manziel, Josh Gordon, Terrell Owens, Rashad Jennings. Man, I'm probably missing like 6 or 7 different NFL names off the top of my head. How are they able to make this happen?
Man, I think a little bit of knowing the right people, and I think like honestly, the thing I'm most proud of are the folks that are building this with us. Like I got to tell you, our team, we get a lot of run as founders that we built this thing, but like honestly, the thing that we did really well is find some incredible people who got the vision. Like I could go on and name 30 people: Steven Adler, Chris Pantoja, Stephen Latini, a lot of folks that are incredibly talented that come from a long, rich sports and technology background that help build it. And the talent side is kind of spread across all of that. It was a lot of talented people who are pretty well networked, got in a room, and we threw it up on a whiteboard and we said, like, who's the murderer's row of people that we want involved with the league, right? And we threw a bunch of names up there, and then we went out and who do you know? And a lot of them came in, a couple of them picked up the phone and called us, right? And said, hey, look, this league looks different. I really still can play. And so it just depended on each one of those deals was very different, but it was, somebody here knows somebody who knew somebody. Then Johnny helped recruit a lot of folks as well, right? Like, Johnny was really interested. Bobby Menery obviously was instrumental in getting us to talk to Johnny Manziel. And so, Bobby was very active, very hands-on. If anything, he's in the trying to make deals every single week for a different player and bringing like different celebrities into the league. And so, it's not one person I could just give mad props to. I will say my co-founder, Grant Cohen, has done a really good job of taking all of these puzzle pieces and saying, where do they fit? Again, because you have this smattering of like random, like Drewski and, Johnny and like, I don't know, like a bunch of folks came to the games this year, but like figuring out where they all fit and what makes the most fun from an entertainment value perspective in a league.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts with this league, more than any other that I've seen before. So it's got to be a unique challenge for somebody who's in the executive department of this league in particular. But anyway, one of the things that you just spoke about was the fact that the IFL kind of limits your sponsorship opportunities. with that being said, you guys chose Twitch as your streaming platform. Do you guys
Yeah.
have an actual televised contract with them where you are in turn receiving revenue from the views, or is it just based on sponsorships?
Yeah, some of that I can get into, and some of that I can, so Twitch did acquire the streaming rights for the exclusive streaming rights for our first 2 seasons of football. So we
Gotcha,
fulfilled that
okay.
contract. They are an incredible partner. They who we wanted to be to begin with, right? Their interactivity is really core to their ethos, so it just really made sense to work with them and the tools that they've built for real-time interactivity. And so yeah, that made a ton of sense. I can tell you, they are, they are literal partners in this league, right? They've got an equity stake in the league and are very excited about what we're building. I think that, like I said, that agreement is done. And so we're exploring kind of options going forward. But at a very high level, the way I can tell you how the model works is we monetize in a couple of different ways. So we monetize the way a traditional league would, right? Sponsorships, ad revenue, rights fees, merch, those types of things. And then we also get a double dip. There's this layer below that where we sell NFTs and have in-app purchases. And so we monetize like a sports league and like a video game, like a free-to-play video game. And so, as we scale this thing, it pencils out to be incredibly profitable in a really interesting way. And so it's not just all dependent on rights fees or what Twitch comes back to us with, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. And I had totally forgotten about the NFTs when it came to your revenue stream, because I'm sure that's lucrative at this point.
Yeah, it did well.
So this may not be a question you can answer. This was the one I was kind of speaking about earlier.
Sure.
In year one, your league was able to pay players between 400 and 750 is what I found figure wise, plus room and board in year one, which for those of you who don't know, that's actually extremely good at the arena football level. That is,
yeah, it's competitive.
Competitive.
I should have touched on that earlier. Like, we always really want to be competitive. Like, in that, we have to. Like, we want these guys to be successful. So it's just juggling, like, what can we do and maintain the business. So anyway, sorry I interrupted, but yeah, we're really competitive in that space.
No, you're perfectly fine, and that was kind of where I was going with this. How were you guys able to make that happen so quickly?
It was, consistent with the amount of money that we raised. I mean, again, we raised capital. We had a pretty healthy seed round of capital that we raised. This is all public knowledge. It was led by Lightspeed Venture Partners. So, we're venture capital backed. Lightspeed Venture Partners, Verizon Ventures was part of our opening round, our seed round, and then we closed a pretty healthy Series A, which is $40+ million, led by Animoca Brands, Delphi Digital. So we have cash to start building all of these pieces. I mean, it was a really healthy, in season 2, that really healthy arena build and whatnot. So, obviously we weren't reliant on money, revenue in real time to try and get revenue to pay players. That was all penciled out before the season started. So that's why we could do that.
Absolutely. I just thought it was very impressive that you're coming in year one, competing with all these leagues that have existed for many years. And it was obviously you guys put a lot of time and effort into the foundation. And there's a saying when it comes to business that if you don't build a good foundation, or I guess if you build the house without the foundation, it's going to collapse, obviously. So it's very evident that how much thought that you guys put into everything.
Oh, thanks, man. And it takes somebody really forensically looking at the details like that to understand that. I think a lot of times what people see is all of the dialogue we're having with fans in real time and adjusting adjusting the digital product and rules on the field and those types of things. And they say, oh, they didn't really think this through. In reality, it's always been a discourse with fans, but there was a lot of stuff that we thought through and had ready and really worked hard to be a first class organization out of the gate. So I appreciate you noticing.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think you lure former NFL guys if you're not first class, to be quite honest. Their standards are a little bit different than most guys that are playing in the arena.
Correct. Yeah. T.O. is wild.
I have no doubt. There's so much I want to ask being an Eagles fan, because we kind of got to see the ugly side of him. How is he? I mean, is he a nice guy? Like, how is he to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
T.O. Terrell has got the Mamba mentality, right? I don't know what else to call that need to win at all costs. in a way that like that is, you see the Jordan documentary and you hear about how Michael Jordan was all the time. That to me is what I feel like is Terrell, right? Like, when I first met him, he was doing a charity basketball tournament. I was in the booth for a charity basketball tournament that was Quavo's basketball tournament, and Terrell played in that league, and most everybody was like, I don't know, it was like Justin Bieber and oh my God, I'm spacing the names. The twins that box now, the YouTube stars, Jake Paul. Jake Paul was there, and everybody's, they're kind of dicking around. It was like an NBA All-Star game, just jacking trays, no defense, not Terrell, man. Just launching people into the third row, just dunking shit, like playing with children, you know what I mean? And it's like, he was there to win. That's what he was there to do. And so I think that carries through in a lot of his interactions. He took this league very seriously. He trained, he would pull this quarterback out after practice and they spent another couple hours in the arena so he could feel what it was like just running routes and trying to build chemistry. And he was there to win, man. And when he wasn't winning, he wasn't pleased, not with the league or the experience at all, but like, look, he's really grinding. He's in incredible shape. I mean, the guy is just unbelievable shape. Not only he's in great shape, period. A lot of people say he's in great shape for his age. That dude is in shape for anybody's age, man. He's just really, I mean, you can tell that he lives it. So, I that's not typically how I roll when I interact with people, but I really admire it. I'm really type A, really competitive. And the fact that he's so dialed in, on just being focused on winning is kind of cool. Absolutely. So I think it can be conflated for being a dick, to your point. Like it can be conflated for the ugly side, not at all. He was great with me. He's very cordial and stuff. But I just understand that like some people can misread that ultra focus,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just speaking from an Eagles fan's perspective because, I mean, I'm sure you saw it at one point. I mean, he's outside the stadium working out, and him and McNabb are not getting along, and McNabb was kind of my guy at the time. So,
yeah,
it was kind of funny to see it all shake out the way it did. Ironically, when we acquired T.O., I said the day we got him, I was like, we are going to the Super Bowl. I'm telling you that right now. I ended up being right. We didn't win, but
you got there. Did you go to any of those games that season?
I did not. I did not. The only game I've actually ever seen them play was in Denver. I do live in Denver.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
I saw them play the Broncos when Mike Vick was the quarterback, and we got blown out 52-17, I think.
Yep.
I was like the only fan in the stand wearing the Eagles jersey.
Mike Vick broke my heart this year, so but several times. But
that was a perfect a segue there that I didn't even think about. Ironic, I've got a signed Mike Vick ball right behind me. So
incredible.
Obviously, I was really excited when I heard he was coming back. So how did that all come about and ultimately not come about, I guess you could say?
I think some of that, I think I can speak to most of that. He was ready to go. I mean, I don't know how to underscore that and say that he signed paperwork. I mean, he was playing for us. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about the level of competition in our league. I genuinely think in some regard, he thought it was flag football, or it just wasn't as hard hitting as we are. And I think, and then there were some conflicts, and she just opted not to come back. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That deal was done and it just didn't materialize. So not the end of the world. No hard feelings. We wish him luck. Great dude, like genuinely. But something that happens, right? Like nothing, deals fall apart at the last minute a lot. So it wasn't, broke my heart because I would have loved to see him take some more snaps, man. I think he's arguably one of the most athletically gifted freaks in the history of any league. And so, watching him, even for a couple more snaps as a fan really had me fired up, much less, around the league. So, and I think the city of Atlanta really wanted it, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about the Atlanta connection. Man, that flew right over my head.
Yeah.
Wow.
Would have been fun.
No doubt. So at times it's been described that your league is kind of a esports and traditional sports colliding together, which really you couldn't come up with a better description for it.
Yeah.
I mean, how big of an influence is esports, fantasy football, all of these? I mean, how big of an influence was this for all of you guys?
I think esports more than the mechanics. It was more of like the broadcast approach. I love I'm not a big League of Legends fan to play, and I don't watch a lot of it, but I marvel at the production. Like, it's cool. It's kind of taken like, again, something that fundamentally isn't a sport, it's an esport, but they've made it feel like a sport and like put cameras on the guys and made them more accessible. And so, like, for me, the esports component was specifically an inspiration when you talk a little bit about the broadcast, and then in all facets of the broadcast, how it looks, but also like this year we had Daniel Gonzalez, who's named Degon, in the booth. And Degon comes from this like shoutcasting League of Legends world. And that's a world where he's got to distill a very complex game in real time and make it accessible to people. And to me, that skill set was so important because the cognitive load on a fan when they go into an FCF game is a lot. You have to understand all of this craziness happening on the field and what's expected of me from a mechanics and a behavior perspective as a fan. And so Degon is able to distill all of that, make it really accessible. So, again, the broadcast a lot. The other inspirations, like mechanically and aesthetically, would be like NFL Street. You know what I mean? Like NFL Blitz. Like, I wanted to be that kind of over the top, still football, but I wanted to feel larger than life. And so you think about like those types of things were really big influences. We actually had an NFL Blitz machine in the arena just because I thought that sounded kind of a fun little homage. So it was on free to play and kids could just go play Blitz.
Awesome. Actually, one of the things I was going to talk to you about is the fact that Pullman Yards reminded me of NFL Street. I loved the ambiance of that place when you're watching the broadcast. It was amazing. I mean, what led to you guys choosing that venue in particular?
My God. Well, so Pullman Yards is interesting. We that really blew me away because, like, again, you go back, we were talking about like it existing on a PowerPoint presentation. It was all, this idea of like a distressed urban industrial, like industrial fans and graffiti and stuff. We've always wanted to be that meets the future of sports. So it's got to be gritty and it's got to be, because it's football, but it also has to feel futuristic. And so how do we marry those two? And like we had a bunch of visual comp pictures that I think were from movies that were shot in Pullman Yards, right? Like Bad Boys, District 9, like they were shot there. And I don't know for a fact that we looked at Pullman Yards specifically, but when we described it, our broadcast partners, Crazy Legs Productions, said, I think okay, trust me on this one. It's wild. I'm going to take you someplace and because it's like, it's 200-year-old buildings that we built a structure over and then played in. It was not exactly the most obvious choice, but they brought us there and we lost our minds. It was just incredible. And the guy that builds our sets was the guy that did he did Prince's Purple Rain tour. He did Justin Bieber's Belieber tour. So he knows how to build huge, amazing, crazy sets. And you put that in the middle of this like, historic Pullman Yards. And it was just, it's one of those things that it's really ineffable. I've been in business obviously for a minute, had been a part of a lot of companies, and I've never, that walking into an arena in a build for the first time when it's been in your mind and all of a sudden it's in 3D space, and it's been in my mind for years, right? Even more so than season one, because we had to play in an old, we played in Infinite Energy Arena because of COVID. It was the one place we could play. So that's not exactly, it was cool as hell, but it wasn't the original vision. This was, and it just, I get choked up thinking about it. It is a wild experience to see something that you've thought about and dreamt about and worked your ass off for years to happen, and then to see it in 3D space and to be there. It was a crazy, crazy thing. And I'm glad that it came across and that you thought it was awesome, because I think, again, that's always been the original vision. So it was neat it's rare that if we're guilty, if this isn't successful, it won't be a function of the fact that the vision wasn't realized. Does that make sense? If it hits, it doesn't hit. But I can't say, I think what would be tragic if we spent millions of dollars and 10 years of our life grinding and we never really got that thing that was in our head. So I think that would be tragic if it wasn't successful. But I think we got that part, and we're going to continue to ensure that we are successful and that this thing's huge.
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, you guys are obviously very much in it for the fans, but at the end of the day, this is your baby. I mean, Correct. You want to see it culminated in the way that you've dreamed about for years. So it makes perfect.
Yes, sir.
So season 2.0 featured the first ever trade, and in true FCF fashion, it went down in big manner. 3 teams, I believe there was a total of 5, 6 players moved.
6, yeah, I think so.
the draft picks, the whole nine. I mean, how did this all come about, given the fact that you guys had never really messed with trades before in the past?
That was owner driven. So a couple of the owners got together and said, look, there are some needs that all of our teams have that other teams can answer. And they didn't have the details, but they said, the Knights were really interested in TO, for example. And so, I think that was one of the details we had, but where everybody else went, we weren't sure. But it was a lot of owners coming together and saying to the league, hey, we have some needs, and they're coming together at about the same time saying, we have needs. So we brought everybody to the table and said, this is how we see this potentially penciling out. Is this something that you guys want to do? So we helped say, like, hey, look, maybe this goes there, this goes here. But they have to agree to kind of want to move forward with it and make those moves. And then we opened it up to fans and said, hey, look, the owners have agreed to a trade. The league has approved it. It still has to be, fans still have to have their fingerprint on it. So we made it a super majority. I think it was 70% had to reject it for it to be rejected, but fans still essentially had to approve the trade. And so, all three teams approved the trade and it went through. But yeah, that was neat. Again, it wasn't anything we'd scheduled, but it was I think there's something that we're going to see more of in the future, because I think once they realized that they can play jazz a little bit with their roster and they can go start making deals and bring their own talent in. I think that's what was cool. This year was, again, just seeing people start recruiting, a lot of the owners, like the Knights of Degen and Drew Austin, those guys were out there trying to go make deals before, it was anything that we had ever announced we were going to do. So I think more of that is to come in season 3.
That's awesome. Out of curiosity, are you guys ever going to allow them to trade franchise players?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, I don't see a reason necessarily off the top of my head to oppose that. I think, like the idea of franchise players being kind of the anchors that they can build teams around from an identity perspective, because that's so important. We're moving the geographical component. So having an identity to really build a team around, I think is important. But yeah, I don't see why that would be off the table.
That's a great answer. I mean, I know that's kind of an odd thing to ask right off the top, but I have so many questions. Like I said, the league is so differently ran that you can't really assume anything. You just kind of have to wait and see how it's going to happen, which makes it part of it so exciting in my mind.
Oh,
cool. So following the trade of TO, we see the Zappers, which were kind of billed as like a super team before the league, so to speak. TO goes to Knights of Degen. Jason Stewart ends up with the Zappers along with Isaiah King. Did you have any idea at the time that the Zappers would eventually go on a run and end up in the playoffs?
I don't think anybody. I think I think anybody that says they did is absolutely lying. There's just no way. They've been dysfunctional at best all season. They just couldn't get it together. And a lot of that's like, I mean, I don't remember what the number is, but there's 7 different quarterbacks or 11 different quarterbacks or some nonsense. I don't know what that number was, but it's hard to build cohesion and chemistry if, the guy taking the snaps is different every time. So, no, I didn't expect that at all. In fact, I thought with T.O. going to the Knights, it was such a complimentary fit that I was very, the Knights had some real nice pieces. And so I thought, if anything, this really makes the Knights more dangerous. I think it opened up the Zappers to not be a one-trick pony. Those Zappers fans wanted to throw to Terrell every single down, and that hurt them. Man, like if the defense knows what's coming every single time, you can game plan around it, right? They never ran the ball. And so with T.O. gone, it was less of a distraction. I think the fans got better, or at least less myopic, right? So yeah, no, I didn't expect it. And what a magic story, man. It was so incredibly, Kelly Bryant and those guys, again, Johnny Manziel. Johnny couldn't be a nicer dude. I think the guy's just a fucking great guy. And so, again, was really thrilled, because he's put a lot of his reputation on the line. I know he's got a rotation for being a party boy and all of these things, but that dude showed up every week, was very excited and being very vocal about the league and what's possible here. And so was excited for him to get him a ring,
Very nice. Very nice. That's a different spin on Johnny that nobody's said before, I don't think.
I love Johnny, man. I'll tell you this too. When he came here, one of the things that he was talking to me about was one of the reasons he was so excited to be here and be like this player mentor to these guys was because he got to the NFL and he let a lot of people down, right? Guys that have been grinding their whole lives to get to that level. He showed up and let them down because of his lack of preparation. And, he just didn't, it was a tough time in his life. And so he really wants to give back to people now and like help mentor these guys and talk about what that next level can be for these guys. And obviously he's seen play at that level. And so really just wanted to give back to a lot of these guys. Johnny's great. Incredible dude.
Interesting. So I'm going to ask a little bit of a controversial question now. Obviously, there was one act in the season that kind of blew everybody's mind. I'm going to go ahead and play a quick video real quick. And then... So that had to have blown everybody's mind when they saw it. I didn't even see it mid-game. I was watching the game, and I don't know how he managed even to make it happen. But I mean, what was your reaction when you saw this?
All right, so I told you I would be candid. I absolutely will. I loved it. I honestly QB Stu's just a great dude. I think it's a type of showmanship that we encourage. We would bonus guys on best celebrations and always encourage them to choreograph like celebrations and stuff. And so, the knee jerk was, and we're for the most part a really pro weed company. I think where it's legal and those types of things. But the idea, and where his head and his heart is around it being really more medicinal and to use those things instead of kind of traditional painkillers, we really support. So the knee jerk was, I saw it, I thought it was awesome. It was exactly the kind of thing that we wanted. It was what a crazy celebration. It was great. And then he went on to become player of the game. I think he threw 3 more touchdowns, didn't affect his play at all. You see dudes on the sideline, shotgun a beer from time to time. I didn't see it as that different. The challenge was it was against the rules, and you can't make exceptions just because he did it on camera. So it was a league rule that you couldn't smoke at the hotel and you couldn't smoke obviously anywhere at Pullman Yards. And we had dismissed people earlier for breaking that rule, and I couldn't not do that here, right? No matter how much I loved it, no matter how much I wanted it to be, allowed. It was a rule that the league had, and you can't run a successful league if you're picking and choosing when you want to follow rules for players. I just think it's a bad look. I really do. And so we had to support our football ops team and say, look, we loved it. We're pro weed where legal and where it's permissible. Thought the celebration of itself was great, but I talked to QB Stu right after. I mean, not the next day. And he said, Dees, it's cool, man. I knew it was against the rule. I thought that was my last snap. I didn't think I was going to get through the rest of the game. I thought you guys would see that and be like, hey, but it was worth it to prove a point. He went on and was player of the game. And so, he had his bags packed that next morning. He was ready to go. He just, it was part of this, and for him, it was worth it. And so again, I wished it hadn't have been against the rules, but we're going to follow those everywhere we can. Everywhere they're there, we're following those rules. And so anyway, that's QBC's a crazy moment.
No doubt. I'm super glad that I got to have this conversation with you, because it did kind of seem like you guys were supporting the action, and then he was released, and it kind of threw me for a loop. But hearing the way you explain it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're not going to make exceptions, because then that's going to create chaos. Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, totally, right? We can't, us, in that football operations league, we can't have a reputation for picking and choosing when we're going to follow specific rules. And so it's a lot to manage. And so again, we dismissed other guys for breaking that rule and smoking, on premise. Again, support the use of weed when and where is important. And that was one of those times where it's, obviously against the rule. But again, the spirit of the celebration was incredible. I love QB Stu. I wish that dude all the best in anything that he does. Hopefully he can come back and not smoke weed in Pullman Yards, but I hope he comes back. He's a talented dude and the type of guy that we want to build a league around. So we'll see.
That's awesome. That's an awesome ending to that whole conversation about him. I did not think that you guys would ultimately welcome him back, but that's cool to hear. Because like you said, he is a great dude. I talked to him quite a bit. I've been trying to get him on the channel, but like I
Nice,
said, I was trying to
nice.
get him on
Yep,
that week, and then his life went nuts.
totally did. Totally did.
Yeah.
Well, if you talk to him,
Virtually,
tell him I said hi. He's great.
definitely will do. I actually told him what you said, that I asked, hey, if it was off limits, and you said no, and that it blew my mind, and he just laughed. He was like, yeah, Patrick's really cool. And I was like, yeah, so far he does seem that way.
Amazing.
That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
I
tell him I said hi. That's great.
absolutely will. I mean, that's you. Oh man, it's kind of surprising. Like I said, your league is so much different. But I mean, for a co-founder of your league, and eventually I'm actually going to speak with Ray as well. Um, it's amazing for you guys to come on to a show like mine and actually speak with me. I mean, like, can you imagine ever seeing Roger Goodell or anybody like that ever come on to a podcast like this? I doubt it very highly.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
again, this league's built by guys like you and me. We're fans of the sport, right? Like I get asked all the time, like, how did you come up with this idea? And I think the reality is you've had this idea, and every fan has screamed at a television and be like, "What are you doing?" We've all had this, and so like, I think that is that distinction is that we are, so we're fans ourselves, and we're building this for us too. We love good football, and I love the video game component of it, and so yeah, and yeah, that'll be, that's my commitment is no matter how large we scale, we'll always do podcasts like this because I think it's important. We're fans too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So hopefully I can have you on years down the line when you guys are in like year 10 and you're
Take me
still
up on
rocking.
it. Take me up on it. Booking it
Definitely.
now.
Definitely. Sounds good. I'll try and figure out the Google Calendar thing while I'm at it.
Overrated. We figured it out. We're here. This is fun,
That's
man. Thanks
true.
so much
That's
for having
true.
me.
Absolutely. I like to have fun. I like to laugh. So I'm glad you're having a good time because it's really entertaining to have you on in particular. This is a perspective that we've never gotten to see on my channel.
Sure.
And I've never gotten to see in particular. I mean, talking to somebody who helped start a football league it's fun. It's unreal to hear this perspective. I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course, man. Wouldn't have missed it.
So I got a couple more questions and then I'll cut you loose. Kelly Bryant was one of the two Bryants that headlined your mid-season editions. Did he and Martavius ultimately come to the league?
Man, I don't know. I default to Jerry Cruz and Marshall Happer on that one. I actually don't know how they became involved. And then the football ops team, we needed some depth at quarterback, and so that was something we knew that we were aware of, that we wanted some additional depth. And I know there was a search to find folks. I believe that Kelly Bryant picked up the phone and called us, but I don't know for sure. So yeah, I'm not sure. And I don't remember at all, but I know one quarterback was found from a fan who sent us some tape, sent us some YouTube video and said, you got to check this guy out. He's on YouTube. Why isn't he playing in your league? And so I don't know if that was Brian or who that ended up being, but I know that's happened like every year, right? They happen, back in the Screaming Eagles. That's how they found our quarterback. And he became the, rookie of the league, rookie of the year that year. I think every year we found some pretty great players just by seeing YouTube stuff. It's the power of having fans, right? You think about the tens of thousands of people that are watching football every week that are then out scouting and kind of doing that for you. It's a very powerful kind of network effect.
That's brilliant. I never thought about that. But was that guy Brandon Silvers?
Maybe? No, I don't think so. I don't know. So I don't want to misspeak. I'm not sure.
No, you're good. You're fine. I was just curious. So they'd say defense wins championships. So forgive me when I assumed the Bored Apes, led by Cecil Cherry and Quantez Stiggers, who consumed 75% of your Defensive Player of the Year voting, to victory. However, Kelly Bryant, James Harden, Isaiah King, Shun Thomas led the Zappers to a W. Did you see signs of a championship team prior at any point?
Just the week before, I think, do you know what I mean? I thought the Bored Apes looked invincible. I thought that defensive unit was ridiculous. Stiggers is a freak. So is Cecil Cherry is a bad man. And so, and they had built this kind of tradition of winning. They were just kind of in this, like, look, they felt like they were unstoppable, but there was this groundswell of, with every Zapper win, you could feel them becoming this team of destiny and gelling, and they felt loose coming into that championship game, right? Whereas I thought the Bored Apes came out playing pretty stiff, especially on the offensive side of things. And so, I didn't, it wasn't until the week before that I felt like realistically going into that finals that the Zappers had a chance. I really, again, I thought it was a lot closer. Everybody still had the board ace by 10 or whatever. And I thought, no, man, I think it's going to be a very close game. I didn't necessarily see the Zappers winning, but what a fun experience. It was so cool.
No doubt. That was a great game to watch too, from a fan's perspective. It was even though the score ended, I think it was about 12 points apart. I would have to look. It didn't seem that far apart at any stretch in the actual game.
Yep.
So what are your future plans for the FCF as a whole? I mean, do we eventually see more teams? Do we see that summer season that was talked about at one point? Do we see an outdoor version of the FCF?
I'll take this in. I've got a couple more minutes. So for the future of FCF is, yes, obviously more teams. I think the idea on a long enough timeline, I think it'd be really fun to take the show on the road and do, part of what we want to do is build shoulder content around the league and have that be informed by the city that they're in and have it feel like Atlanta content, not unlike Desperate Housewives. Desperate Housewives of Salt Lake City is very different than different Desperate Housewives of New York, right? It's the same formula, but it's flavored differently by that community. And I think it'd be really fun to start really embedding ourselves in a community for a season or two, have all of the shoulder content around the league, these vehicles to meet the players and to get to know them, be, local style. Obviously we really like the idea of playing in Vegas. And so, I think season 3 will be adding some teams. And I think we have some surprises on the technology front that I think we're going to do some really cool stuff. So, a lot of lessons learned coming out of season 2, and we're just going to keep getting better.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I want to cut it short here. I'm going to leave you with this last question. How did Fan Control Hoops come about?
NBA Jam, my friend, is one of the single greatest video games of all time. And I will fight whoever says that that's not true. The opportunity we've always wanted multiple sports. The name of the company is Fan Control Sports and Entertainment. Football was always the first stop. We actually had, and are obviously looking at several other sports that might be more conducive to, fan control stuff like baseball. But the idea, we're all huge basketball fans. And the idea of being able to create a game that fans can influence was, once we kind of cracked the code on what would be fun for a fan to be able to do during the course of the game, then I started thinking really seriously around how could we pull this off. So I think you'll be blown away, man. The whole court is an LED, so literally it's a TV screen for a basketball court. The shit that you can do underneath that will be amazing. The backboards are LEDs. And I think you'll be very excited when we start naming team owners, because the guys we've got lined up to be part of the league are going to blow some minds. So NBA Jam, we're big NBA Jam fans. We love basketball. I think there's a very fun version of basketball that we can put together that's, fast, that encourages dunking, and some really fun mechanics with this light up court. So I can't wait for people to see it.
Absolutely. I'm excited, and I'm not even a basketball fan, to be quite honest. So I'm excited to check it out. With that being said, I am going to let you get out of here. I apologize for taking up the full hour. I was expecting to go a little bit shorter.
It was a good time. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come back, definitely, like I said, we'll be reaching out in the future for sure, because I'm sure you guys got a lot of big things on the horizon.
Let's come back and talk basketball once we get a game or two under our belt. I'm happy to come back and talk about how the season's going. Let's do it.
Sounds good. I actually have a contributor on the channel that's a huge NBA fan, and I told him about the league, and he's super excited, so I'll have to get him on as well.
Let's do it.
Cool. Thank you so much. Have a great night, Patrick, and I appreciate everything.
Thanks again.
In Season 1, the fan-controlled football league knocked on the door.
Controlled football, Francois to throw for the first time. Downfield, got Jamil. And Andrew Jamil towards the pylon. Touchdown! Got him! Glacier boys strike first.
Got that DD already. And they already start. I love the balance.
In Season 2, the Fan Control League kicked the door in.
Clock is at zeros. Kid still with time. Stepping up, stepping back. Kid letting fly to the corner of the end zone. Intercepted! Board A Football Club will hang on. Samuel Brown puts an exclamation point on this one. Board A game headed to the People's Championship.
A battle till the death, and just Mitch going past the clock, just taking his time. Oh, he's gonna run. No, he's not. And then there were 3 Okie members heading to that back corner. I think Mitch is gonna want that throwback, but the pressure was immense.
Okie found a way to have an opportunity to win this game after all seemed lost. Last play of regulation, looking
In
for
season
Boykin
3,
in the end zone.
I have no doubt they're going to bring the whole house down. Big things are to come for the Fan Controlled Football League in season 3.0 and beyond.
Yeah, despite the fact that Goldrich had missed 3 weeks of playing time, he looked comfortable in the pocket last week. We'll see what Salt Lake City has in store for him this week. I'm sure that they've game planned for both quarterbacks, and we'll see what they bring at Goldrich. He's got a good arm. He's good in the pocket. He doesn't run as much as Nadler did.